Manual chores are taxing your staff and degrading their experience. Automation, especially in the context of the digital employee experience, well, it's increasing efficiency and outperforming the competition. Avoiding automation jeopardizes staff engagement and security. Well, this must be prioritized in your business, and it begins with identifying blind spots, testing, and establishing baselines. And I promise to make this easy, if not a little fun, as we explore the WWT Research Report Digital Workspace Priorities for 2023. Now, these priorities do tend to build on each other, so it's worth checking out the full report yourself. We've previously covered this first one here, equalizing employee and customer experience, and I encourage you to watch it, after you finish this one, of course. Today, we dive into priority number 2, add automation for smarter, faster processes. Welcome to WWT Presents Research, accelerating results through the knowledge and achievements of those who came before us. Don't let a poor workforce experience hinder your organization's growth. Join me now as we navigate a path to success in the new era of work right now. Well, hello guys, welcome to Tech 37. I've done shows with both of you. I don't think it was on the same show. This is an interesting kind of cross section of previous experience here on the show. But regardless, the topic is interesting and you guys are smart. And so I'm looking forward to getting further into this. But Yvonne, let's start with you. What do you do for Worldwide Technology? How would you describe it?
I run our end user computing practice. I'm a senior practice manager there. We like to think of us that we've been in employee experience business forever. It just recently became very cool. And so now everybody's jumping on the bandwagon. Really what happened, pandemic kind of pushed us into this into the forefront a little bit. Really, we were already on that track from consumerization of workforce and employees. But the pandemic kind of sped things up for us. So that's why it's a big deal now.
Well, Mike, I remember we've talked about automation and I think was it full stack observability? I can't remember all the different things that you were considered an expert in and can answer my questions. But glad to have you here for automation as we talk about this. Do you mind introducing yourself and update us on how you describe what you do for Worldwide Technology?
So I'm Mike Servasio. I'm the Global Practice Manager for AI Ops. So what that means is anything that helps our customers contain their monitoring sprawl and make it work better together with a modern observability approach, which leans towards an AI ops discipline, which involves people, process, culture, and technology. So, this is a hot topic because to me, the new battleground is customer experience. How do we capture customer experience end to end? If you're not doing that, you're just monitoring a bunch of boxes and a bunch of applications, but mapping those critical user journeys from stem to stern really gives you insights and puts a business lens on what's really going on, either with your customers and just as important, your employees as well.
Well, it's a great point you make there too, that seems rather obvious, but it's like, why wouldn't everybody be focused on kind of maximizing this experience? Because without it, I don't know how you expect to stay in business. But either way, we're talking about people who definitely are into it and they're looking to get better at it. But I'm more concerned with what's the urgency? Why now versus why can't I just do this later or as it comes to me? How would you respond to that?
It's one thing to just observe some stuff and kind of sit back and not do anything about it. And it's like, yeah, the employee experience sucks. Okay, we observed it. Automation is the tool to actually do something about it. I think, again, pandemic pushed us a little bit into this as we all kind of went home and started working from different locations where I guess the IT, I'm going to say, our organization didn't have any control over what device you're using, what kind of network connection you have, all that. And all of a sudden that maybe you had a good experience at work, now at home was not so good. And so they were trying to figure out how to do something about it. And even more than that, they were trying to figure out, hey, okay, you told us that this is going to help us is it really helping us? Is there a way to actually monitor some of that stuff? And again, that's the observability comes into play.
Mike, if you can expand on this, perhaps from your personal experience, where do you see the risk of not prioritizing this activity or getting better at this type of thing?
Yeah, I mean, for one example, for a large retailer, and this is more employee experience, is they had so many issues with, just simple things, the print server not working, something simple like that. It happens so often that they stopped calling the help desk or logging a ticket. And this went on for months, and IT never got ahead of the curve to actually fix the root cause. Let's find out why is the print server disconnecting from the network throughout their busy day at the store. You want to get ahead of that and use automation. You want to use automation to get those early warning signals to alert the right support staff to get involved as early as possible, or better yet, kick off some self-healing automation. Maybe it's just restarting the service on the print server or restarting a Windows service. Something as simple as that. If you want to identify your key processes, your event to incident process, you do want to optimize your processes first, because if you just automate a bad process, it's chaos.
One thing that was maybe missing in the past is the correlation of bad employee experience equals bad customer experience. And I think that is a big driver, especially for the frontline workers, right? We also have to think there is so many different personas or groups of workers that you have to make sure they have a good experience. And Mike was touching on the one that's specific to the actual frontline, right? So there's a direct correlation on if your employees are not happy and not satisfied and engaged, your customers will suffer as a result. Therefore, your business will suffer.
So one example, and I could call them out because I used to work for American Express. The contact center is a critical function. The call center professionals that interface with card members, customers. If the contact center employee has a poor experience, the application and understanding that, bringing up the customer's profile and account, seeing where they can help them. If that is friction filled, well, guess what? That impacts that interaction with the customer, which then becomes friction filled. So they really are correlated, as Ivan said.
Well, it's interesting. I can't think of a single role that I've ever held, and I've been in a lot of different roles over my long life. And there was always something. It's like, if you want to find something to work on, you could always ask any employee. It's like, what's under your skin? What's not working well? And then, Mike, you're reminding me of this. I know in my customer service background, there were times when I would see us avoid offering something that might be beneficial to the business, for the customer. It's a positive, that whole thing. But because I know that it's going to kick off some red tape, or it's going to be a pain, or that there's going to be something else associated with it, depending on how the day is going, I might not do that, or know people that didn't do it. Let's just say I was always doing the right thing. But, it just strikes me. And so it feels like this is also something, when you get good at it must, and Ivana, you comment on this, this feels like you also kind of set a cultural thing in place where it goes, hey, we want to root out these things. Mike mentioned event to incident, I think, which sounded like a metric you've probably put in a database somewhere, as one of those things. But I'm like, yeah, having people track that down and potentially being rewarded for it, I suddenly see kind of a circular process of how do we get better at getting rid of the things that are difficult, manual, error prone, whatever they may be, so that we can enjoy what we're doing and get a little bit more flow into the business.
I think even another bigger picture, from that, we need to look at is maybe up to pandemic era, it was maybe okay that employees didn't have as good of an experience in doing whatever they were doing, right? But again, pandemic moved a few levers here for us as well, and one of them was a shortage of talent, right? And I think that was another huge business driver that all of a sudden put this employee experience in a forefront for a lot of the organizations, because they were fighting for talent from their neighbors, I guess, and competitors. And that was, again, very much what pushed whole thing in a spotlight for us and for all the organizations. So there's, again, direct correlation there for if you don't want to do something about this, well, guess what? Your business will suffer as well.
It occurs to me that suddenly there's a liquidity to where you work, because if a lot of people are working from home and they're in that kind of business, if I work for you or I work for them, if I might be sitting in the same place, so it becomes easier for me to go, which also says it's easier for me to not have to put up with things that aren't working as well as I'd like.
Especially for, employees of my kids' age who are, technology is it, right? They want to be nimble. They don't want to work for a company where if they're working from home, that they're having issues getting to a certain application, right?
Yeah.
They'll leave within 2 weeks because it's going to impact their job performance and their happiness.
I'm curious, Mike, in terms of, have you seen things based on your client interactions that may be low-hanging fruit, stuff that we should look for first in terms of improvement or starting out?
100% of our customers need automation, or trying to start an automation practice, an automation factory. And it could start as simple as, automating the alerts that come in, the leading signals, automating that to look at the potential root cause using machine learning, intelligent automation to, get the right team engaged. And, that's a good first step. It's not that challenging to leverage the alerts, get them integrated and correlated. And more importantly, get those actionable insights, get rid of the noise and have the actionable insights go to the right persona who then can either act quickly on it, or we could test out some safe automation, because there is a fear with, hey, if I automate everything, I'm going to be out of a job. But really, the fact is, if you don't embrace automation, you will be out of a job, because what it's meant to do is take over the mundane daily tasks that are drudgery, right? From, let's say, even just a simple build a server image, instead of doing all those manual tasks, and let's have that automated and have you focus on more strategic, fun initiatives with the company.
You were telling me something about one of your clients going through some layoffs. They were trying to find new efficiencies. Is this an area where efficiencies can be found?
Absolutely. So this was a banking, financial insurance company. They had something called an enterprise command center, and it was supported with a lot of offshore resources, large amounts of resources to, follow the sun type support. And, they wanted to, get some re-engineering saves. What can they do? Unfortunately, they decided to lay off 2/3 of that staff. And now the team is left with doing more with less.
Yeah.
Versus let's talk about automation. A lot of those tasks that those level 1, level 2 support folks do, a lot of that can be automated. And that staff, the offshore resources, could have worked, instead of waiting for the next ticket to come in, they could maybe start to decrease technical debt, look at the reoccurring problems that are still happening. And it could be code related, could be infrastructure related, doesn't matter. But let's get them off the L1, L2 support hours. Let's get them to more intelligible, fun work to actually make a bigger difference. And yeah, you know what? Since it's an outsourcer they used, then they could confidently say, you know what? We can reduce 20% of that staff, and let's now reinvest that into our employees that are there full time onto being more innovative instead of tactically troubleshooting and being in war room bridges.
Well, I think there's a lot of different ways to approach this. And I had some examples that I wanted to pull out. The first one I had on my list, Ivan, if you could comment on, is onboarding. Why would onboarding, from your perspective, assuming you agree, why would that be good for an automation practice?
There's so much wasted time in imaging. Again, I'm talking from like endpoint devices for users, imaging those devices, shipping it back and forth to whatever employee, and receiving it back because stuff wasn't done properly. All that is humongous waste of time for either help desk staff or something like that. So if you can streamline all of that via automation, then you can actually free up these folks to do something a little bit more meaningful, help with tickets that are coming in something else, as opposed to just babysitting this process, right? And then if you take this step further, right, onboarding itself from an employee perspective, it's much better. There was a utility company that ultimately, as a result of this bad experience for some C-level folks, because they were waiting for multiple weeks to get their laptop, they now have a digital experience director that his job is designed to really streamline a lot of these processes using, again, automation, so that employee experience is great. So the idea is to cut down from weeks or even more to days or hours from, let's say, a new person coming on board, getting their new laptop and everything else that they need to get their job done right away. That's actually it seems pretty like a common sense that would be there, right? But it's not. Most organizations struggle.
And it's a shame, right? Because not only is it quantifiable, it's obvious that can cost you money, but gosh, you just hired somebody, they're full of momentum and they're ready to just, it's before they've been dulled maybe by their fellow employees with reality of whatever. How about IT? The IT department, something where most of us are pretty darn familiar with because we work around IT so much. But what, problem identification and remediation, is that ripe?
Being able to kind of streamline some of these processes, especially around help desk. But for that to happen, you have to have some kind of ability to see, to be proactive, to observe what is really happening in your environment. Because the measuring tool for years and years from IT perspective was, how many tickets did we get today? Oh, there must be a problem somewhere. Yeah. So that's the example there. And then from a kind of addition to that, not just observe, but have other tools specifically put in place that actually can do this integrations and automations for it to work properly, right? So those are the two things that I see from IT's perspective that are key to driving some success around this or improving that employee experience.
Well, I know Mike's been chomping at the bit because, Mike, you do love talking about monitoring, and he mentions observability. What is digital experience monitoring? What's the status of that as a potential item that could be automated and brought into normal practice?
Yeah. So what I've seen and what we've done out of some large customers since I've been here is let's analyze their current incidents, whether it's from ServiceNow, BMC, Remedy, doesn't matter. Give us 3 months of, let's say, what they call P1 or your highest severity incidents. Mm-hmm. Let us do an analysis on that. What tools are capturing the event? Which ones are not? What's the process? Who gets involved when? How long does it take? And what we gather from that, we create a library of incident personas of the most commonly occurring incidents. In this case, like the highest priority ones, the P1s. And what was the associated fix? What was the root cause? And if we know what that is, then we start to build an automated run book. We've seen this type of incidents before. This is what was the remedy. Let's now kick off a scripted investigation and remediation. And guess what? It didn't involve any humans. It's logged. It's then put into your knowledge management database, and there was no business disruption, or at least it was very minimal, because they caught it within milliseconds. The machine learning capabilities and the runbook automation that we create and validate with the customer validated that, yeah, we're safe to kick this off. We don't need any human intervention. Now, there's some more complex ones, but you still need to isolate those high value decisions. Yeah. If it's more complex, it's not just a simple automation restart of a service. Get that high level information and insight to the right persona as quickly as possible. So, either through automation or through that isolating the high value decision, the goal is we now can ensure a better employee and a better customer experience because we're going from firefighting to being more proactive, if not prescriptive and predictive.
Is the notion of having a digital experience dashboard of some sort, is that common or is that something that's growing? Where does that stand?
That's actually growing. That's what we're trying to help our customers with. That's whole part of this being more proactive, have ability to see what is really happening. And then it's not just looking at one spot. You have to take a look at all the different spots that kind of contribute to that employee experience. One being an application, for example, that they are using. The other one is actual device. Maybe the device is old or has some problems or maybe even got infected by a virus, whatever. That's causing problems. Connectivity. Again, I think I mentioned something as we moved to work remotely. Connectivity became a big problem for a lot of these folks working from home. All that needs to be looked at, and it has to be correlated into one, I guess, dashboard, I'm going to call it, but have a good ability to kind of observe all that in one place so that you can make intelligent decisions. And then once you have that, then you can actually automate some of these decisions that in the future, right? So that's really, I think, where this is kind of going to.
Yeah, I would add that the dashboard is definitely needed. And, you hear single pane of glass, but it's really the right pane of glass or the first pane of glass. Yeah. Because sometimes that information in one dashboard, it's hard to see. But let's have those actionable insights placed where that employee is doing collaboration, like Teams, Slack, whatever they use. Let's build a bot or an alert. Hey, I'm in Microsoft Teams and I'm chatting with my coworkers, and all of a sudden we all get this alert. Hey, this employee experience is starting to head south. Let's action that right away. Versus, you've got your dashboard. If you have a NOC or a command center, that's great. That's what they look at. But for the rest of the team, the higher level experts, let them be aware and live where they do collaboration as well.
One other example I wanted to bring up, this notion of a self-service app catalog. And Mike, have you had experience working with clients that are starting to make their tools perhaps a bit more accessible and usable with a catalog? How does that work?
Yeah, like at American Express, there was a focus on developer experience, which is pretty cool. This is 7 years ago, maybe 8 years ago. Developer experience. We've got, with this new developer starting, or we're using an outsourced partner, give them a way to quickly get the right tools they need. And the development tools, the CI/CD tool chains, the Jira, the Jenkins, the test automation software, and the monitoring software. So they've got a portal for these new developers where it'll list out, based on what you need to accomplish. Here are our enterprise standard tools, and you could, download them. And if it does require back-end approval, because maybe it's not free, that's automated. It goes immediately to your leadership team, and they could approve or deny. Hopefully they don't deny. But yeah, given that library of resources for self-servicing, for developers, for employees, even in my role when I started at Worldwide, we have a software asset library that there was stuff that wasn't part of my standard image that came with my new MacBook. Hey, you know what? I need Visio. I need Lucidchart. Let me. Where do I go? And I got pointed to the portal to download that, and it was automatically starting to download. And on the back end, my manager Tanner was hopefully approving it.
It goes beyond that. I mean, this is kind of a function of some of the modern device management solutions. They're kind of in the middle of a lot of this automation that are happening, like VMware Workspace ONE or Microsoft Intune, right? Pretty much they're smart enough, so there's automation already built into them to know I'm using a Mac. I'm going to position all the Mac apps for you to consume easily, or I'm on a mobile device. I'm going to position that in the same catalogs, the ones that are specific to iOS or Android. So it's much broader than just maybe developer specific. It's for everyday applications and smarts around all of that. Yeah.
Well, one of the things I feel like is coming out of that is, one, there's a benefit to me as an employee because there's one place I know that I can always go to, which makes it easier to remember things when it's always in the same place and it's not changing. And it tells me the options. It's handling the questions of how much is it going to charge my department for this as a cross charge and who needs to approve it. That stuff is usually, in my experience, has been pretty easy to see. But then I guess the flip side benefit too is that historically we would have been calling IT for this and trying to get permissions and then fighting with, do I have administrative rights on my machine to even install these certain things? That kind of stuff could be handled via automation. And then I think these things tend to pay for themselves maybe in one big way, I would think, which is not paying for blanket licensing that you're not using, because you now have got a really good record of, well, who's active, who's using these things, who do we really need? Are there some things we don't need anymore and perhaps we don't need to keep supporting or paying for? So it feels like it just feels like that this notion of a self-service catalog really has been, it sounds like a no-brainer. It sounds like everybody should be doing this to some degree already.
You say it should be common sense, but a lot of our customers are still struggling with this. So we do a lot of conversations with them on that particular topic. They're all somewhere in their journey, but they're not even close to being there. So that's very hot.
Well, I want to get into how do we get started, right? Which is because you guys are good as a company, and you guys are individually pretty good at this too. But you're people. And one of the things that you guys seem to consistently focus on is education in your client base. It feels like the first step that I've encountered, no matter what the technology, has been what are you trying to achieve? Why do you want to get into this? What brought you here? How would you describe your current situation? These type of things that you go through in a much more detailed fashion as people engage with you. But I feel like it's not about automating everything. It is about making some decisions about, well, where are we going to get the most bang for the amount of investment required? And that investment might be money, it might be people and time. Thoughts from you guys on how to get started. And if you want to bring in services that you guys provide, this is a great time to do that as well, because I always encourage those. But yeah, how does someone get started? Yvonne, you're smiling. That'll get you every time.
That's what I usually do. We usually start with some kind of a briefing where we even talk to our customers. Hey, art of the possible. Do you even know this is doable? And they're like, ooh, yeah, we want that, and then some of that. So that's the beginnings of that.
We have the same approach for automation and AI ops. We call it it's a workshop. It's 3 hours. The only cost is the time investment, but we invite all stakeholders, the business, SREs, the NOC team, the application team, the IT operations team, and security team. And we walk them through, what are their current pain points and challenges? What does success look like for each of them? And then we start to build out a roadmap, a reference architecture to come to that answer that question. Where do I start? And typically there's a quick win. Like for me, the quickest win is to do a showcase user journey where we just pick one critical user journey, we instrument it. It could be done in 2 to 4 weeks, and we show the value, the art of the possible with just doing that one critical user journey. And we get, where they may have had cultural issues or needed to even market what they're doing. It helps promote it within that company. And when you map a critical user journey, you're now involving the business who's responsible for customer satisfaction, getting the JD Power Award, for example. But that the foundation and confidence and spans the cultural divide to then rinse and repeat. Yeah. This is awesome. Wow, this is great. Network team. How did you do that? We want to do that on our applications now, on our hybrid cloud environments. So starting with a quick win and where to start, because it is, you show AI ops in the maturity curve and it looks daunting, but we want to start where the customer is and build the foundation, build the blueprint, understand the blueprint before you start to pour the foundation to the house.
Yeah, and I've always been a big fan of that type of advice, which is let's just pick one thing and let's do it. And then that becomes easier for also to explain what you want to do to others when they can see, well, let me show you what we did with this one thing. And now everybody gets a little better buy-in. You've got some proof, you've got some wind at your back, and you can build on those things. And I appreciate the fact you guys brought up metrics and ways, because this is a business. And so we want to be able to say, if we're investing in this, what kind of return are we seeing? And, and how does this compare to returns we're getting on other projects? Because you want to make the right decisions. You want to prioritize appropriately. And it feels like all those elements are here for automating your digital experience. And so you obviously you guys are big proponents of that. I had in my notes that you guys have follow-ons for the specifically digital employee experience briefing, which runs about 2 hours. And then I think this is the one you were mentioning too, that I had for 4 hours. You said 3. I don't know. Maybe they talk slower in the one that you're not involved in. Infrastructure automation envisioning workshop. Both of these things should be linked below the video. Any final comments?
You're not alone. Let's tackle it together. Let's start with a really easy scenario, like a user journey. Let's take advantage of the workshop. They don't cost anything, and let's start engaging you where you're at and how we can help you the most. And a lot of times it doesn't involve cost. It's us acting as a trusted advisor. We don't come in pushing any one technology, but we do have opinions based on our experience and what we kick the tires on every day in Advanced Technology Center. So I would say, leverage our workshops and the briefings that Ivan's going to talk about, and let's start small. Let's start to build the foundation of the house and begin the journey.
And make sure it's a good foundation. Absolutely. Ivan, you can close us out with your final thoughts.
You have to have a strategy a little bit defined up front because this digital employee experience and automation, there are huge topics. They can spiderweb into so many different work streams that you need to tackle eventually. And let us help you kind of go through some of this and figure out where are the most important pieces right now? Where are you hurting the most? Let's tackle that one. Let's get some of those quick wins. But you still have to develop that broader strategy. And this is where some of these briefings and workshops come into play. And then we can start tackling the list of things that came out of that. And having that, representatives from all these different groups in the mix that Mike was saying for that workshop, they're a key. That's how you're going to get things done.
One of the challenges I know that I personally have run into is that I may think this is the process I need to work on. And so I launch after it without maybe an overall understanding of what all's possible. And then I run into the fact that I didn't realize how complex and how many dependencies and some of the things that maybe held me back from actually doing it. You guys have seen that happen a million times. So I would imagine you have a different view when you start getting exposed to a new client and saying, yes, you could do that one, and I can see where you think that's valuable. I'd also suggest that you may run into some problems here and keep us from doing it within the time frame that you wanted, perhaps, or to get the results you think that you're going to get in that, within those expectations. Either way, guys, thank you so much. This is a fascinating space, and it's interesting. I love it with Worldwide, especially. You guys have the ability. You guys don't work in the same groups, and you represent different disciplines. And that's what you guys are good at doing, which is bringing together the right people to solve the right problems, no matter where that has to draw from. And you certainly have a deep bench of people to draw from. So Ivan, Mike, thank you so much for joining us.
Our pleasure. Yeah.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
When organizations fail to deliver seamless workforce experiences, it can spiral into a plethora of unintended consequences, including employee dissatisfaction, higher turnover rates, and increased costs, as well as a slower time to market. It's also important to remember that the impact of the DEX or DEX or digital employee experience, well, it extends beyond just employees, because employee experience and customer experience are intrinsically linked. Poor employee experience can easily translate into decreased customer engagement as well as loyalty. And remember, this is just one of the 5 priorities identified in the WWT research report, Digital Workspace Priorities for 2023. You'll find links below for rewatching this episode as well as other recently covered priorities. But your best bet, just read the report directly. If you have any questions, please reach out. There are all kinds of super smart people over here at WWT, and they are ready to jump in and help you succeed to whatever degree is right for you at this time. Just don't pass this up. My name is Rob Boyd. Don't let poor workforce experiences hinder your organization's growth. Thank you for joining us.